I proudly represent the Graduate Student Association of the School of Political Science and Law of Central China, Normal University. To the esteemed Khenpo Sodargye, for graciously giving a lecture at our distinguished institute, we wish to express our most sincere gratitude and extend a very warm welcome. The main leaders and guests attending the lecture first is the School of Political Science and Law, Central China Normal University Professor Gao Xinmin, the founder of the Center for Mind Cognition and Research, Ms. Liu Yaqin, Zhang Tingguo, Dean of the School of Philosophy, Huazhong University of Science and Technology, Tang Lin, Party Secretary of the School of Philosophy, Huazhong University of Science and Technology. We would also like to thank the leaders and teachers from Huazhong University of Science and Technology, Wuhan Textile University, and Hubei Institute of Fine Arts for their presence and participation in this event. Next, please allow me to take a moment to briefly introduce Khenpo Sodargye to everyone present here today. Khenpo Sodargye was born in 1962 in Luhuo County, Ganzi Prefecture, Sichuan Province. He once studied at Ganzi Normal College. In 1985, he went to Larungar Sciences Buddhist Academy in Seda. He took His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche as his root guru. Later, he became the Chief Khenpo in charge of the Han Chinese Sangha Department at Larungar 5 Sciences Buddhist Academy. He enjoys a high level of recognition both domestically and internationally. He has accompanied His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche abroad to spread the Dharma on several occasions. He was also appointed as the mentor of the Larungar Exoteric and Esoteric Center in New York, USA. He is also the honorary chairman of the Shanghai Xihui Public Welfare Foundation. His charitable endeavors include the Wisdom and Compassion Charity Foundation and Primary School. The master's hometown, Luhuo, is a high-altitude, cold region surrounded by mountains. For children here, the only window to the outside world is school. Limited educational resources and impoverished family backgrounds cause many children to leave school prematurely. It is precisely because of this situation that the master is committed to charity. He once said that the hardships he faced in pursuing his studies as a youth, as well as his later life experiences, made him feel he should do whatever little he could to help. From his hometown, he wanted to help children return to school, changing the Tibetan region. He said, "I wish to be like a humble blade of grass, though not as tall and upright as pines and cypresses. As long as I am rooted in the earth and nourished by sunlight and rain, I will surely spread spring's vitality everywhere." This is the root of the Master's dedication to charitable work. Now please give a very warm welcome to the Master, who will graciously begin the lecture for everyone.
Distinguished professors, teachers, and students, a very good evening to each and every one of you. I am profoundly pleased to be present here today with teachers and students of the School of Political Science and Law at the renowned Central China Normal University, as well as the teachers and students from the Center for Mind and Cognition Research, and also to exchange ideas with teachers and students from other universities. Today, the main topic I want to discuss with you all is titled, "The Crucial Need for Spiritual Education in the New Era." I believe that we have an opportunity to thoroughly explore and deeply learn from each other's unique perspectives and experiences. Of course, the spiritual education that I am discussing and talking about today is a very important topic. This practice primarily involves the application of specific methods of mind training, which are taught within the ancient spiritual traditions of Buddhism. At this moment, I also wish to convey a more detailed and personal reflection on my own deeply held attitude concerning the broader aspects of society and the intricate journey of life itself. It is my hope that through this shared experience, we can all participate in a process of continuous and valuable mutual learning. It's not that just because I am standing on this podium here today to share some profound knowledge with everyone present. It's just that I am eager to exchange ideas with intellectuals. Why is that? Because our attitude toward life and our inner understanding are extremely important. Nowadays, in our era, there is a great deal of knowledge available to us. But indeed, some of this knowledge is not actually useful. When we eventually enter into the society, many of the things we have learned and acquired truly cannot be directly or practically applied. Given this observation, I advocate that as university students, we should learn some methods for our psychological adjustment. For a person, this far surpasses learning to manage money and wealth in importance. For teachers, their role is not just imparting knowledge to their students. More importantly, it's about how to approach life and how to face one's own fundamental existence, how to deal with the complexities of our society, how to conduct oneself and interact with others. These issues are extremely important, so I believe that among the intellectuals present here, some individuals may be Buddhists, while others may not hold with Buddhist beliefs. Of course, the profound decision of whether or not to embrace any particular faith is entirely a matter of personal freedom and individual choice. I have always advocated for freedom in this regard and respect. However, for us as individuals possessing wisdom, it is indeed beneficial to conduct some research. In fact, Buddhist studies are an extremely profound and immensely vast body of knowledge. This kind of essential knowledge is truly necessary everyone to fully understand. If you genuinely comprehend it, I firmly believe it will be 100% beneficial to your professional work and your future prospects and endeavors. I am convinced it will be entirely advantageous. It is true that studying Buddhism will not bring any significant harm to your life. From my own experience and perspective, I have been a devout believer in Buddhism since my early childhood. However, it was only after embarking upon a thorough study of this profound subject that I began to delve into its intricate teachings and philosophies. Indeed, I essentially devoted my entire formative youth to this extensive and profound academic pursuit. Throughout this process, I increasingly and profoundly felt that the wisdom and insights of Buddhism are, without a doubt, truly and remarkably wonderful. This appreciation does not come from the fact that I am a monk or a Buddhist myself, nor is it praise stemming from attachment to my own side and aversion to others. It is not with such an attitude that I commend it. Rather, I am evaluating it from a very fair, a very impartial and objective perspective. Does studying Buddhism offer any use or benefit for humanity? From this perspective, I believe that many people in our world today should gain some deeper understanding of Buddhism, as this is indeed very important. In actual fact, Buddhism is not nearly as mysterious as some individuals might imagine it to be nowadays. It's not something that no one dares to touch, or that if you get involved, you have to go off to the deep mountains and forests to become a monk, or that you have to see through and abandon the entire society. It's absolutely not like that. Buddhism offers distinctly different benefits to people at various levels and with diverse aptitudes. It's just like education in our modern world. Education actually has many different levels. From elementary school to postdoctoral studies, there are layers upon layers of knowledge. In fact, this knowledge is essential indeed for us to exist in our world. In the same way, if someone truly grasps the knowledge of Buddhism, I genuinely believe he will gain many benefits in their daily life. This is not just praise in words alone. In daily practice, I often ponder this thought. Many people in our lives are quite fragile and vulnerable when facing life's numerous challenges. Whether someone is wealthy, possesses status, talent, or various forms of good fortune and blessings in real life, just as the 400 stanzas on the Middle Way wisely states, the world is filled with countless sufferings. When suffering arises, even literary giants, historians and writers have very powerless to cope with it. If we look at their lives, in the end, when faced with birth, aging, sickness and death, some individuals cannot handle it. Some even choose to end their own lives. In such situations, we often think, we hope that many people will study the profound Dharma. It's not because by studying the Dharma, our group will become larger in number. It's not about what personal benefit I get from it. It's not like that. because I feel that if one understands some Buddhist principles, life is not as unbearably painful as people imagine it to be, nor is it filled with overwhelming sorrow, heartbreak, or anxiety. It's not like that. Let me just give one example. The concept of impermanence in Buddhism. When it comes to impermanence, many of us don't even consider it at all. The reality is that people do face death. No matter your status, wealth, or physical condition, everything is subject to impermanence. People always have especially beautiful and perfect, deeply held aspirations and desires. But these aspirations do change. What rises high will inevitably fall, and impermanence happens in an instant. In Buddhism, there are terms that seem very simple on the surface, but in reality, they truly analyze our entire lives in a very thorough way. I think if we are completely unaware of this phenomenon, after all, people only live in this world for a few decades, and for those decades, we work hard and strive for our careers and our future. When adversity arises, it can bring about unimaginable pain. Therefore, I think that in any higher education institution, whether it's teachers or students, in addition to the essential knowledge we usually learn, there should also be an education for the mind. I understand that East China Normal University has research and education in mental cognition. When I heard about this, I was truly very pleased. The primary reason I am so happy is that I think these teachers really care about their students. Our current education system needs some significant cultivation and substantial growth from within if we don't have that essential internal development and only strive for mere money and material wealth. For some unfortunate beings without good fortune, these essential things are unattainable. Even for those individuals who do manage to attain them, it doesn't necessarily bring true and lasting happiness to their lives. Therefore, our education shouldn't be obsessed with seeking money every single day. If our sole focus and relentless pursuit in life is merely the accumulation of wealth, then that approach is profoundly unwise. I recall a particular news story that garnered significant attention back in the year 2006. CCTV had a program called Dialogue. On this Dialogues program, they invited high school students from both China and the United States to conduct a thorough investigation into the various values and their fundamental orientation. During this process, the host specifically set up several categories for the event: money, power, truth, wisdom, and beauty, about 5 items in total, and allow them to choose for themselves how they would ultimately define their personal value orientation. At that specific time, the American students, without exception, all decisively chose the profound concepts of wisdom and truth. What was their reasoning then? They believed that with wisdom, one could pursue truth. And once you pursue truth, all other forms of wealth would come easily. That was the reason they chose truth at the time. As for the Chinese students, except for one who chose beauty, all the others chose money and power. That left a deep impression on me at the time. Now, to be honest, I'm not saying that everything about America is good and everything about China is bad. When we speak or do things, we should always look at both sides of the issue. But the truth is, after thousands of years, much of our inner moral education is fading away, and the situation is very serious. If this trend or situation continues unchecked, then in the foreseeable future, all of our highly skilled and exceptionally talented people, their outlook on life and values will be based on money and material things, focused on external development, but no one will be able to achieve inner adjustment or true happiness. If that's the case, then this kind of pursuit is indeed unsuccessful. When I came in just now, I saw on a big stone at East China Normal University the words, "Seek truth and innovation, cultivate virtue and nurture people." Naturally, I genuinely felt that there is a very strong and significant concern for morality here, but maybe it's just put there as a slogan, because whether the school values it or not, I don't really know at all. This is my first time at the law school, my first time interacting with all of you. But if we really do place great importance on morality, consequently, the students we cultivate and nurture in the future will undoubtedly become truly beneficial to society, contributing positively and significantly. Furthermore, this will certainly be good for their individual personal lives and their overall life direction as well. Regrettably, at this present moment in our society, I genuinely believe that everyone has somewhat blindly started to pursue money and material wealth. Many college students often feel a profound sense of oppression and deep insecurity when they graduate. They frequently feel that life places a tremendous amount of pressure on them, and they sometimes feel as if living in this vast world almost has no real, tangible meaning. Some individuals might even choose to do unwise things, unfortunately. Just yesterday, I had a conversation with a teacher from Zhejiang University. She shared that her child was constantly being pressured by his teachers regarding homework assignments and various academic courses, and the parents themselves were also always pushing him to achieve more. It felt as though everyone involved kept piling all of this immense pressure onto him. He would often write the word hell in his school exercise book. He also felt it was utterly meaningless, the word hell itself. He felt overwhelmed by pressure and saw no real meaning. Actually, if we have a certain confidence and courage, we wouldn't experience such intense suffering. In terms of material conditions, life today is indeed different from when we were young. Some of the teachers present here are actually quite senior in age. If we compare our living standards from childhood to now, there is such a big difference now. In terms of daily life, including your food and accommodation, there aren't major difficulties in these areas anymore. But the main issue is that our minds are confused and our hearts lack the guidance of a teacher. From a young age, what have we focused on? We focus on grades. We don't value compassion, nor do we value inner morality. This is indeed a very significant shortcoming for us at this moment. Originally, in the Han region, although we certainly do not possess the exact same profound Buddhist cultural traditions as those found in the distinct and ancient land of Tibet. In Tibet, after Buddhism was introduced over 1,000 years ago, it became intertwined with every aspect of Tibetan people's lives, including their customs, culture, arts, and all other fields. They have all completely merged together, just like milk and water blending into one unified whole. So in every aspect of Tibetan life, you can see traces of Buddhism. But in the Han region, Confucian thought does in fact place certain constraints on people's behavior. So moral education is indeed very important for us now. In the past, when we talked about teachers in Chinese, it was said that a teacher imparts the way, teaches knowledge, and resolves doubts. That means actively imparting essential morals, diligently teaching comprehensive knowledge, and effectively clearing up any confusion that students may encounter. These are, in fact, the three fundamental and crucial requirements that are being strongly emphasized. But now, in many schools, the teaching knowledge is focused on mere textbook content. Every teacher, from elementary school to university and even PhD level, is constantly teaching you knowledge every day. But how exactly do you actually use this valuable knowledge in your real everyday life? Many teachers haven't analyzed this aspect in depth or explained it thoroughly to their students. If it isn't explained, when students enter society, they will quickly find that society is completely and utterly different from school. People without significant life experience or practical experience may not fully realize this profound difference. But if you have even a little bit of that experience, you will undoubtedly realize that the happy, comfortable, and wonderfully warm life you once had in school, once you enter society, you'll find that deception and scheming are indeed very common. When you encounter even the slightest adversity or suffering, you'll find it unbearable. In the end, you may become extremely fragile and indifferent. Ultimately, this is harmful to both yourself and others. So I think I once knew someone from Beijing University of Chinese Medicine. She was always especially grateful to her teacher. Why was she so grateful to her teacher? Because her teacher had originally taught the subject of mathematics. In each 90-minute class session, approximately 60 or even 70 minutes were spent entirely on analyzing various social issues in life. He frequently talked about how one should live and how to effectively face things when you enter society. Most of what he taught had nothing to do with the subject matter they were supposed to be learning. At the time, some students didn't understand and thought the teacher should just teach mathematics. They wondered why he bothered to talk about these principles. At the time, no one understood. Later, when she entered society, some of the teachings her teacher had shared played the most profoundly significant role in her entire life. You could genuinely say that this exceptional teacher taught her for a substantial period of about 3 or even 4 formative years, but the invaluable knowledge she gained was truly unforgettable for a lifetime. So, for many of us with experiences, when we enter society, the impression of some teachers has long since faded away, while the impression of some teachers remains vivid and clear. There are two kinds of vivid memories. One is of a teacher you can never forget, but who left a very bad impression on you. Whether it was from childhood or at any other time, they would hit you every day, scold you every day, and constantly criticize you. They themselves would drink and smoke, always behaving like that. Not long ago, I had the opportunity to visit a rather remote and isolated school. The teacher was conspicuously standing at the classroom door, drinking a can of beer. Inside, the students were loudly fighting, crying uncontrollably, and causing a general commotion and considerable disorder. But the teacher completely ignored them, sitting there in a daze, seemingly lost in thought and oblivious to their presence. So, teachers like this. Sometimes I also remember when I was in elementary school, there was a particular teacher whose image still appears incredibly vividly in my mind to this very day. What comes to mind is not something good. He also frequently drank alcohol. Every single time he drank, he would come into the classroom with a big stick and start hitting everyone in the class. We were all especially heartbroken. Whenever we heard that our teacher was drinking, everyone would be really scared. We knew that in a little while he would definitely come in. And once he came in, even if we hadn't done anything truly wrong, he would definitely hit us. Now, even though 20 or 30 long years have passed, sometimes when I see him or when I think of him, there's a complicated feeling in my heart. So, some teachers really do play a role in a person's life, leaving behind scars and marks that can never truly heal. And there are some teachers who will always be, perhaps according to Buddhist teachings, people we are deeply grateful to for lifetimes upon lifetimes. Why is that? Because through their words and actions, through their behavior and conduct, our attitude toward life has truly undergone a tremendous and profound change. So, in Buddhism, when we talk about spiritual friends, it actually refers to those individuals who possess deep wisdom and serve as invaluable guides. There was once a truly great and highly respected scholar in Tibet named Master Gampopa. Gampopa once wisely said that the essential qualifications for a teacher can be succinctly summarized in three crucial points. The first, reduce greed and selfishness. Don't spend all time chasing fame, money, and status. He seeks solely his own personal benefit and never considering their students. Such a teacher is not suitable. Therefore, the first requirement is to be free from greed and selfish desires. The second essential requirement is to possess wisdom. If a teacher truly has no wisdom at all, they simply cannot effectively guide their students on their learning journey. Therefore, it is absolutely crucial that a teacher should possess profound and exceptionally keen wisdom. The third vital quality is to have great compassion, or what we often call a deeply caring heart. With a caring heart, the teacher will care about their students, because the teacher has already walked this path. They understand the problems of society. When students enter the world, how should they live and work? During this process, what is most needed? What is most crucial? The teacher will understand all these aspects and principles. So while imparting wisdom, the teacher will also teach students some particularly useful knowledge in this regard. So I think all of us teachers and students here are engaged in education. In the process of working in education nowadays, some aspects of school education, of course, I do not reject them. Indeed, they are very important. But the most crucial thing is the education of the human mind. If there is a beautiful environment for the mind, or if one has the ability to face challenges, even if this person encounters some setbacks or pain in their life, he can face them with great strength. We have to face social issues, emotional problems, and many other things. According to Buddhist teachings, these should be handled with right knowledge and right mindfulness. We must always observe our own body and mind. When we lose our way in life, there is a kind of wisdom that protects us. So now, if we lack this kind of wisdom, the temptations of the external world are extremely severe. Therefore, the Buddha also said in the collection of all Dharma Sutra, all those who possess wisdom, their minds are not swayed by external circumstances. A wise person will not allow their mind to be unduly influenced by the external world around them. But if it is a foolish individual, an ignorant and ordinary person, they often mistake profound suffering for happiness, perceiving and even embracing pain as if it were true pleasure. Consequently, when students and many other people venture out into the world, they don't know what they should be pursuing, what the fundamental issues are, and what should not be pursued. They have already lost their direction at this point. At such critical times, the comfort and reassurance that teachers provide to their students' hearts is especially important. Of course, when it comes to spiritual comfort, if all the necessary conditions and circumstances are present, I think the very best is Mahayana Buddhism. Why is that so? Because with Mahayana Buddhism, one helps all beings, even every single sentient being, unconditionally. This kind of mindset and spirit is extremely rare in our world, truly. If in a society like ours we have the ideals of Mahayana Buddhism, I think no matter what kind of person you are at the time, it will benefit you. Because the spirit of not thinking only of oneself but of others is the very essence and the best part of Buddhism. Therefore, some students may not necessarily understand the meaning of Buddhism. Some people think that Buddhism might just be about worshipping in temples, burning incense, or reciting scriptures, these kinds of things. But actually, these are just some of the practices in Buddhism. But true Buddhism, in the past, there was a particularly remarkable Indian sage named Vasubandhu. Vasubandhu composed the Abhidharma Kosha. In it, Buddhism consists of teachings and realizations. The teachings refer to what we call the Tripitaka and the 12 divisions of scriptures, which are theoretical aspects. Both in China and Tibet, there are collections of the Tripitaka and various treatises. There is an especially rich body of works. This is the teaching aspect. As for the realization aspect, it refers to what is in each of our hearts: renunciation, bodhicitta, or faith, wisdom, and compassion. All of these are realizations. True Buddhism, in its essence, actually consists of these two aspects of teaching. Therefore, some individuals may only wear monastic robes on the outside, but does that make them a Buddhist? Some external Buddhist practices do not necessarily represent Buddhism itself. True Buddhism is indeed a profound kind of virtuous education. It is also an education in beauty, a cultivation of inner beauty. If such education were present in any university, then with a kind heart, everything would become good. I once read about a professor from Peking University who often said, as long as it is something good, we are willing to participate. I think this is a very good and important statement. Whether we are students or dedicated teachers, as long as it is something genuinely good, we should always do our absolute best to actively participate and to take action. When it comes to evil, we should do our utmost to stop it. Although some ordinary people in the world may in fact be quite much more skilled at committing bad deeds, they are capable and interested in doing wrong, and the conditions for this are all present. It seems effortless for them. Any kind of wrongdoing just happens. But when it comes to doing good, their strength is relatively weak. This is a problem they have. However, in the future, as a responsible intellectuals, the orientation and positioning of our lives should be to become good people. Otherwise, there are so many temptations and deceptive influences in society today that can easily mislead us astray. When our lives truly lack any valuable and meaningful direction, these pervasive influences begin to take a firm hold. There are countless such underlying causes and conditions, and our actions truly are. For example, when it comes to doing charitable work, I have indeed spoken about this topic at some charity forums and gatherings. Nowadays, many people think that doing charity is only for philanthropists, wealthy people, or those with status. They believe that ordinary people like us have nothing to do with it. In fact, charity is not a matter of money. It should be a reflection of a person's moral character. If everyone possesses a kind intention, then, for example, doing a good deed every single day, even if it's just generating a kind thought in your heart each day, like wanting to do good deeds and help others, when you see others doing something good, we should rejoice for them, feel happy and delighted. This profound sense of joy for others is very important. Buddhism has always emphasized that every individual's mind, body and speech should evolve towards goodness as much as humanly possible. This continuous cultivation of virtue and positive transformation is the ultimate and most noble aim of Buddhism. Do no evil, practice all good deeds. Many people should already know this. Don't do anything evil. Do whatever is good and virtuous. This is Buddhism. Are all Buddhists doing good deeds? Not necessarily. Some individuals are truly devout Buddhists. these genuine Buddhists would never engage in any harmful or negative actions. However, some people may only possess the outward appearance of being a Buddhist. In fact, whether monastics or lay people, if some people's behavior is not in accordance with the Dharma, then they cannot represent the true and pure form of Buddhism. It should certainly be said in this way. However, among Buddhists, there are indeed different levels. The standards for Buddhists are not necessarily all the same. So nowadays, some people in our society think that because a certain Buddhist's behavior is bad, Buddhism as a whole is bad, they generalize like this. This way of thinking is incorrect. The actions of a few individuals cannot represent. For example, most university students should generally be good individuals in their nature, but among them, there are bound to be one or two who are not so good. When Yao Jiexin committed murder, many people said university students are bad. But in fact, he cannot represent all university students. He is just an individual case among university students, related to his own psychology and education. Also, as mentioned in the Buddhist scriptures, perhaps it is a case of karmic retribution from past lives and so on. When all kinds of causes and conditions come together, his actions become tainted. Even among many talented students at schools, there are such cases. And it's the same with Buddhists. There may be a very small number whose behavior is not good. But we need to truly understand that authentic Buddhism is indeed correct. Moreover, if one genuinely attains the profound wisdom of Buddhism, just like historical figures such as Mr. Lu Xun and Einstein, as well as the psychologist Jung and Mr. Liang Qiqiu, they actually had some comments on Buddhism as well. I once wrote an article about this. In fact, they didn't fully grasp the deeper aspects of Buddhism either. For example, certain meditative states in Madhyamaka and Vajrayana practices. When I read many of their articles, it seems that to a certain extent they only understood some parts of Buddhism. But the true Buddhist teachings, such as the principles of the four Dharma seals, were not understood by them on a very deep level. If you really delve into it, you will indeed feel incredibly excited. Why is that? Because Buddhism has already explained these profound truths. In the end, you will have gained insight into life. Right now, we are promoting the study of Buddhism, including treatises like The Way of the Bodhisattva and the Fundamental Wisdom of the Middle Way. Many prominent intellectuals, including some researchers and scientists, they have all started to study them. And after studying, they have indeed gained truly incredible benefits in their own personal lives. They themselves can't imagine, oh, if this treatise didn't exist, I might have lived in this world with a great deal of arrogance, doing many truly detrimental and harmful things. And my entire attitude toward life would have been deeply unwise and lacking in foresight. So I think our collective concern for the well-being of society is very necessary. And at the same time, it is especially important to cultivate and possess the truly kind and deeply compassionate mindset that is central to the teachings of Buddhism. Our requirements are not very high. We are not asking everyone to become monastics or to take lay precepts or to insist that everyone must study Buddhism, but you should have a correct attitude toward Buddhism. Any truly good deeds done within Buddhism are indeed things you simply cannot help but acknowledge. This is because those individuals who consistently do good deeds can certainly be called wise, while those individuals who do evil deeds can be called foolish. When you enter society, the spiritual education received from many teachers is very beneficial to you. Back on June 7th, 2007, at Harvard University, during a student graduation ceremony, Bill Gates was invited. In fact, Bill Gates also actually studied at Harvard University in the past. When he arrived, he firmly told these students he hoped that in 30 years you would come back to Harvard to observe and analyze. Observe and analyze what exactly? Back when he was a student, he thought that thoroughly studying politics, economics, and international trade was essential. He believed these were the most fundamental elements for human survival and the core pillars of the knowledge that we acquire. But once he entered society, he hadn't really expected that in every corner of the world there would be so many people suffering from illness, lacking access to education, or facing extreme hardship. The pervasive impression that society consistently conveyed to him was one of profound unfairness and deeply entrenched inequality. Therefore, if we as a society genuinely choose not to care for and support these vulnerable, then all the knowledge and understanding is, in fact, rendered utterly useless. So, considering all of this, What precisely is his most profound expectation for every individual? After you enter society, you should understand the unfairness that exists within it. Of course, some of this may be what the world generally considers to be an unfairness. Some of it, as we say in Buddhism, comes from the inequalities caused by karma from past lives. If each and every one of us can be mentally and emotionally prepared for such challenging and unforeseen circumstances, I truly believe that many dedicated teachers possess a very rich and extensive wealth of social experience. With this profound social experience, you also come to deeply understand how people navigate through the complexities of life and overcome various obstacles. What kinds of things happen during the process of enduring hardship? Originally, you may be capable, genuinely wise, and remarkably outstanding in many significant aspects, but because of the very way society often treats you, it feels profoundly unfair to you. You never truly get the proper chance to fully demonstrate your inherent abilities. Yet some students are very naive. They think, once I enter society, what will I do? What will I accomplish? They have grand ideas about their major and their future. But when you actually enter society, you could say you have high expectations but lack practical skills. Nowadays, it's often said that people have high scores but low abilities. Right now, many of our universities only look at test scores when admitting students. But in reality, scores can't reflect a person's actual real abilities at all. People with high scores feel proud of themselves, thinking, look how high my scores are. But after you graduate, no matter how high your scores are, it doesn't matter. If your moral standards are extremely low, there's really nothing that can be done. Back in 2009, there was a student from Changsha No. 1 High School named Ma Tianzi. In the end, he was accepted by 9 universities, including Penn State University in the United States. Why was he accepted? It was because he volunteered during the Wenchuan earthquake. Among all the volunteers from Hunan at the time, he was the youngest, just 16 years old. Later, many American universities noticed this. They felt that although his test scores weren't particularly high, they still admitted him. Why did they admit him? Because he had compassion. At the age of 16, he was already helping numerous people who were affected by various disasters. And this kind of phenomenon, this year, in a particular city, there were teacher qualification exams taking place. There was one dedicated teacher who had previously volunteered extensively in many remote areas. She had dedicated 5 extensive years to volunteering in various remote places. Moreover, her overall level of knowledge and understanding was exceptionally high. Subsequently, nearly a dozen reputable schools wanted to recruit her, but it was because she had volunteered in so many remote areas. They were all worried. Could there be something wrong with her psychologically? So no one dared to hire her. This is exactly the same as the example I mentioned earlier. Why is that? Now, whether it's teachers or students at our schools, from a very young age, we only focus on scores. All we look at is how much did you score today? How much did you score today? Other than that, there's virtually no significant attention paid to a person's comprehensive overall qualities or their genuine care and concern for others. In the past, the philosopher Confucius extensively talked about fundamental virtues like filial piety, benevolence, and righteousness. These aspects are basically not mentioned or emphasized anymore. This represents a significant shortcoming, a critical deficiency in our modern education. Otherwise, if we consistently fail to discuss and uphold these moral codes, no matter how high your scores are, even if you become a PhD or whatever, a lot of people say, oh, I'm a PhD, I'm a graduate student. They truly think they've already, as we often say in Buddhism, fully attained enlightenment. But what have you genuinely and deeply learned? Even if you have learned something, what about your character? If you lack character, if you don't have filial piety toward your parents, care for society, or compassion for all living beings, if you lack all these essential qualities, in the end, you will also become utterly useless. To be honest, perhaps these particular words aren't very optimistic for some of you who are quite wise, but no matter what the circumstances, I speak frankly and without any reservation whatsoever. I would like to speak out openly about some things and various phenomena that I have observed from my experiences. If you feel that something is unreasonable, you can just bring it up directly during the Q&A session. Feel free to tell me directly. I generally won't get upset. In Tibetan Buddhism, as I was just discussing with a few professors, one of its characteristics is debate. During debates, anything can be brought up and discussed, but after things are said and done, everyone generally has the ability to accept them. Although I'm not very good at debating, I still think that some of the problems existing in our society today should be spoken out loud. After voicing them, perhaps some students will know what to care about when they enter society. As for us teachers, what do we need right now? What we need is morality. I've always believed that the education of the mind, morality is the education of the mind. Simply put, the profound education of the mind is, at its very core, an education rooted in the principles of love. Einstein once said as well, what is so-called education? After you have forgotten what you learned, what remains in the end is called education. After you've studied, what remains is not just an accumulation of knowledge. It's the values that guide people in what they want to do, and this is extremely important. If we don't have this, I think skyscrapers may rise higher and higher every year, but our inner desires, our tendency to compare, jealousy, and suffering will only increase. Our moral standards will continually keep declining. In this particular case, if we were to rely solely and exclusively on external material conditions and circumstances, can they really bring you satisfaction, happiness, and joy? I think that's really quite difficult. That is why nowadays many discerning intellectuals have their attention focused on Tibet, because this truly sacred and revered place still preserves a primitive, extremely pure Buddhist culture. Buddhist culture is not about having especially good material conditions or owning luxury cars or houses. It's not like that. But the people there truly possess a sense of contentment and very few desires, which allows them to enjoy a peaceful mindset that is in harmony with the natural world around them. This is indeed very important for a great many of us. I distinctly remember that in the past, the esteemed Dr. Toynbee once had a significant conversation with the distinguished Daisaku Ikeda. As everyone knows, Daisaku Ikeda from Japan, who notably received the United Nations Peace Award, and later in 1999 also received the Einstein Peace Prize. Dr. Toynbee, as you may know, was a historian on par with intellectual giants like Russell and Einstein at that time. In their collection of dialogues, Choose Life, a dialogue with Arnold J. Toynbee, which is available in Chinese and a multitude of other international languages, they analyzed a vast amount of historical data and many specific issues. At that time, Dr. Toynbee believed that the 19th century was dominated by Britain and the entire 20th century was dominated by the United States, while he firmly believed the 21st century would be dominated by China. However, China's growing influence over the entire world would not be achieved through military force, destructive war, or other such aggressive means. Instead, it would be primarily through the teachings of Mahayana Buddhism and the principles of Confucian thought. He firmly believed that such a truly ancient culture could effectively spread its influence throughout the entire world. Indeed, all of humanity, each and every one of us, has a choice of love to make. If every single person consciously makes this choice of love, in the end, it becomes the choice of society as a whole. And as this societal choice gradually takes hold, it slowly becomes the choice of the world. Ultimately, the world itself should also gain a new sense of beauty. More than 30 years ago, he was already vociferously calling for this crucial concept. He firmly believed that China should maintain its own unique and cultural values. He adamantly insisted that China must not fully westernize its entire societal structure, or else it would inevitably bring about catastrophic disaster to the entirety of human society and its future development. Later on, I read many historians' commentaries. Historians widely believe that in the subsequent years that followed, important historical events unfolded. It seems that Dr. Toynbee passed away around 1975. Afterwards, in China, we did not particularly maintain our traditional culture. One could say that through the tide of reform and opening up, various Western ideas and diverse cultural imports continuously impacted us. In the end, some historians have also said that Dr. Toynbee is no longer with us. But if he were alive, he believed that the 21st century belonged to China. If he saw this phenomenon, he would likely feel saddened and regretful. What he said back then did not, in fact, turn out to be entirely correct. Why indeed is that the case? At that time, he had truly great hopes that our Confucian and Buddhist philosophies would flourish and spread all over the entire world. in the 21st century. If that were the case, then the only true remedy to save humanity would be this. But as we all know and understand today, although Mahayana Buddhism, and especially Tibetan Buddhism, is widely recognized, in Western Europe, some Western countries, and even here in the Han regions, there are indeed many people who are embracing it. However, the scale of acceptance is not broad, and the depth is not particularly encouraging. Nowadays, if we have no spiritual home and only desperately pursue external material things, in the end, humanity could truly face the prospect of extinction. Because of this, I myself often like to reflect on certain issues. As for the ancient ways, of course, we are not saying that. For example, in the past, there was a very famous historian in Tibet. He was also a traveler, Gendun Chompel. He once said, "Everything ancient was created by ghosts and spirits, and everything new is worth accepting." This kind of thinking is also incorrect. We are not saying that everything ancient is very good, nor are we saying it is very bad. Some traditions may not necessarily fit well with the current era, but as people, we should maintain a concern for our spirit. We should maintain the kind of values from the past, such as gratitude, cherishing blessings, frugality, and filial piety toward parents, as well as many other particularly good principles. In Buddhism, these are analyzed even more deeply and further with great detail. But nowadays, it is true that on many levels, these values have basically disappeared. Therefore, in the future, we should place greater importance on education of the mind. Education of the mind can draw from Confucian culture, other religions, and also some Western philosophies of the mind, starting from these perspectives, and also my own personal insights from many years of dedicated study. Even better, I believe, would be the profound kind of spiritual education that is often found within the teachings of Buddhism, the spiritual education within Buddhism. I've heard that many of our university students participate in these 7-day summer meditation retreats, with some teachers personally leading them. In this way, aside from our daily pursuit of fleeting fame and material gain, we can also cultivate a pure mind. This kind of mind, even if it's just for a period of 7 days or 10 days, might be a kind of enjoyment. However, beneath this enjoyment, there are even more profound states of existence. Indeed, at the moment of birth, human nature is good. We can state that it truly is pure and untainted. However, influenced by the pervasive impact of evil friends and detrimental environments, our pristine original nature becomes tainted, leading us to become confused, thereby rendering us incapable of discerning or the true intrinsic nature of our own minds and inner selves. That's why people should sometimes go to pure and tranquil temples to adjust your mindset. Sometimes through the practice of meditation, you can come to understand the nature of your mind. At times, you should use your own wisdom following the Buddhist teachings, which discuss Buddhist logic, Hetavidya, and the middle way, Madhyamaka, using them to show all phenomena are empty. But when we speak of emptiness, it's not just emptiness for the mere sake of being empty. There is a very rigorous and complete logical reasoning behind it. This kind of reasoning, especially for university students who often consider themselves very smart and wise, should be used with your sharpest intellect to observe. Are all things in the world truly empty or not? When you examine things in this way, you'll find that this approach is quite similar to that of physicists. For example, many of Einstein's views from the past align closely with this perspective. Many physicists in quantum mechanics also rack their brains to observe, in the end, it seems as if the entire world has become empty. Even they themselves can't truly believe it. They feel profoundly shocked. They believe that anyone who masters quantum mechanics will be extremely surprised. If you haven't quite reached this level of understanding, it means you haven't fully grasped quantum mechanics. So I really do think that many of these fundamental principles, whether in anthropology, sociology, or the natural sciences, are present in Buddhism. When we look at it from all aspects, within the vast ocean of Buddhist scriptures and treatises, we can indeed find its profound truth and its ultimate origins. It's just that we humans have truly had our minds and our inherent wisdom profoundly clouded by all sorts of pervasive defilements in the world around us. And in this complex world, we often muddle along, mistakenly thinking that as long as we have money, a good status, and a job, we are already quite satisfied with that. What we need to understand even more is that humans do have past and future lives. When people do not understand this core principle of the existence of the past and future lives, they will inevitably end up doing bad things. A significant number of people unfortunately do. Especially when considering the evolution theory, nowadays intellectuals and academics widely believe that Charles Darwin's original theory of evolution at the time of its initial proposal was actually just a preliminary hypothesis. He did not possess any correct or irrefutable scientific evidence to support it, because when he put it that way, we humans come to believe that we are just like bubbles. When we die, that's it. When we're alive, that's all there is. Apart from these few short decades, there is nothing else. Such a profoundly narrow-minded and restrictive view has ruined the long and arduous journey of our precious lives. So, as intellectuals, I am not demanding that each and every one of you must unequivocally acknowledge the existence of past and future lives. However, if you truly wish to refute this concept or assert with conviction that past and future lives definitively do not exist, then you absolutely need to possess a truly robust and undeniably reliable theory. Simply stating that something does not exist without providing substantial evidence or a well-reasoned argument does not in itself make it so. Throughout our intellectual history, the great philosopher Dharmakirti, in his seminal work, The Commentary on Valid Cognition, established a profound and comprehensive theoretical system to demonstrate the deep reasoning behind the existence of past and future lives. Of course, if you haven't studied these things, it's impossible for you to know them. We know that with any philosophical system, or indeed any profound field of knowledge, if you haven't spent a certain amount of time on it and only hear a few words or some brief remarks, and then immediately try to make a decision about an issue, that is a foolish act. That's why we often see intellectuals engaging in discussions, and in the process they strive to discern the truth and eliminate confusion. We hope that many intellectuals can come to understand the profound and true meaning of life. In fact, there are indeed still many crucial issues that people themselves have yet to fully explore. There are numerous issues that we simply must grasp. For example, if we only have today and no one truly knows what will happen after tomorrow, wouldn't we feel very pitiful? In reality, tomorrow exists, the day after tomorrow exists, and your old age also exists. But if we only see today and only acknowledge today, we would think that such people are too short-sighted. In the very same way, even though you currently don't acknowledge what truly happens after this present life right now, but if you continue living like this, and if past and future lives really do exist, and you don't do good deeds but commit bad karma every day, then in countless future lives, you will suffer greatly in the realms of hell, hungry ghosts, and animals. So, on these issues, I think we must reflect deeply. We must accumulate a lot of merit and do many good deeds. In this way, gradually, the virtuous roots you possess will slowly ripen. Ultimately, one's own happiness is that we should care about both our happiness in this present life and also in our future lives. This is precisely what I believe. If humanity genuinely wants to be happy, if you only talk about happiness in this life and do not consider happiness in future lives as well, that is actually unwise. Human development should include the development of external material things, but our inner morality must also develop and be improved. If we only ever talk about external material things and completely ignore our own profound inner self, then we won't be happy. No matter how exceptionally good your material life is, no matter what conditions you have, in the end you won't feel it. So, I believe that both inner and outer development are necessary. True happiness should encompass both happiness in this present life and also in all future lives. And that search for things is rather common. Today's discussion is truly just a symbolic gesture. I am merely offering a few initial thoughts to get everyone thinking and to stimulate further contemplation. Please consider it a gentle and encouraging reminder, a simple yet impactful nudge for everyone involved. In fact, we need to go deeper. With so many scriptures and treatises in both Chinese and Tibetan Buddhism, you will surely find the treasures of value and meaning that you need from them. Of course, I myself studied at a normal college before and have always been interested in teaching. I believe many of you here are teachers, and some will become teachers in the future. Anyone who is a teacher should teach by both word and example. We must use our own virtues to inspire society and influence others who are connected to us. I sincerely hope that our collective kindness and these precious moments of heartfelt, genuine communication can profoundly add a vibrant and meaningful touch of color to humanity and to this global society we all share. I genuinely believe that's everything I have to thoughtfully share with each and every one of you today. Thank you very much for your kind attention.